Heads up.
And we're live.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. ETV. Today, I'm joined live by the incredible naturopath, Nathan. I call him Nathan the Naturopath, which is an incredible man that I have referred lots of my patients to, that I have seen myself, and that I have referred family and friends to. And it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation to have, to be had today about naturopathy, about true energy medicine, and about holistic, naturopathic, nutritional based lifestyle expertise type medicine. So I want to introduce you to Nathan. He's a qualified herbalist, qualified nutritionist, and also a qualified naturopath who's been trained and mentored by some of the most well-known holistic doctors across Australia. He's had extensive training in the field of quantum energy, the unified field, as we refer to it as the quantum field, reprogramming the subconscious, the holistic medicine, integrative medical technologies, et cetera, et cetera. He works alongside one of the best holistic MDs in the world, as far as I'm concerned, a man that I've referred a lot of patients to as well. So I want to say a special welcome to my friend Nathan the Naturopath. How are you, brother?
Amazing, Espen. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for jumping on. I know you're busy. You got
Really
a lot
excited.
on, and yeah, man, this is exciting. So just for those who don't know, can you give us a little breakdown of naturopathy? What is, in your words, naturopathy? How would you introduce that to someone that may not know what it is?
For those who've never been to a naturopath before, our whole point is looking at not where you are right now, but how you got to that point. What led you to this pattern that's developed, whatever condition you've come in to help us. We need to help looking, whether it be diet, lifestyle, nutrition, is only the tip of the iceberg. Usually what I find when someone comes in, as well as looking at pathology, doing different testing to look at the baseline of where their current disease is at right now, this is a very small part of what we do, because if we don't look at the psyche, the limiting beliefs that drove them to make the continual decisions on a daily basis that led them to this point, then they'll be back again a year later for another different condition. But as a naturopath, foundationally, we are taught to identify, almost like being a Sherlock Holmes, what was the causes, multiple causes, singly, or it could be the past 5 years that something has been going on within your body that led you to this point right now. And then we use a holistic approach, again, which encompasses medicine. The food you're eating can be medicine, or it can be the complete opposite and drain you of energy. Is there any fungus, parasites, viruses draining you of energy? Is there any heavy metals? Is there any epigenetic influences? The environment you live and breathe, is that influencing you? People stealing your energy? There's just so much to this, Espen, that as a naturopath, we love to sort of do a little bit of everything. And I've been so blessed to be trained by some of the best to really open my mind to not just limit it to the physical.
Wow, that's beautiful, buddy. And I remember, you know, because I'm a qualified nutritionist as well. In the day, I used to be a personal trainer and a nutritionist. And I started really looking at, as you said, not just what people were eating or drinking, but what made them eat or drink these certain things. And, you know, with today's society, people, I mean, we don't eat food, we eat food-like products, right? So often. And the problem with this is that, one, we don't really recognize what's in what we eat. And two, we don't recognize why we eat them. So when I started doing my fasting journey and intermittent fasting, you know, in 10 days just on water or whatever else, I started actually recognizing that so much of what I eat wasn't because I was hungry. You know, sometimes I ate because I was actually thirsty, but very often I would eat because I was emotional. So would you just take us through that? You mentioned this is so important, you know, because we don't always eat because of, you know, what the body needs. We eat for its, you know, escapism or short-term stimulus or whatever. What's your take on that?
So food becomes many people's friend. If they're isolated, depressed, if their energy is down, they will replace fulfillment and love and higher frequencies with food, because that's the only way that psychologically, maybe when they were younger, that they were shown love by family and friends. And so that was imprinted on them as a child, that food equals love. and they fall back to that in times when they don't have that. And so psychologically, even without thinking, their subconscious, being 40,000 times more powerful than a conscious mind, is directing their decision, and they've put food in their mouth without even thinking about it. They've watched something on the TV and it's been such a strong connection. They've gone to drive to go get some snacks because something within them tweaked. And this is all subconscious. I mean, we run 95% subconscious. We only have 5% control, if that. And so really it's all subconscious eating, which can be stemmed back to childhood.
Amen, brother. Imprinting period, et cetera, et cetera. And I recognize this with myself. I would have, when I would get emotional because I had a tough conversation or a tough day at work or whatever, I'd go and seek something, particularly that of sugar. Because when you eat sugar, your brain secretes, serotonin, oxytocin, sometimes dopamine, other things. And then we have this short-term high. So we feel better. And then, of course, we have a crash. And then we keep on putting Band-Aids on the problem. And what I really love so much about naturopathy and also energy medicine, which we'll get into, is that it doesn't guess. I do, even as you know, now I'm in the process of doing a whole broad range of tests again, all of my bloods, hair test, stools test, saliva test, looking at my vitamins, minerals, hormones, optimal function, because as a 3-time elite champion athlete, my job is to know what my body is going through and to know what my body needs. And you don't know that until you do the tests, right? You can have cancer and feel great and all these other things. So let's just talk about this in terms of energy medicine and naturopathy. How, when someone comes into you, you'll do obviously your consultation, you'll do a series of tests. Would you take us through how normally that process would work?
So once I've done my standard naturopathic assessment, that's reviewing medical history, reviewing any pathology, going through and looking at signs and symptoms physically, I then use the skills I was taught by some pretty amazing doctors who are in this whole holistic space of energy medicine. I was taught to then use something called kinesiology, muscle testing. So essentially the brainstem is talking to different areas of the body and you can interact with this. So the anterior deltoid here, if you're basically using someone's arm, you can check in with them and see if something is congruent, to see if their immune system understands a substance. And on our thymus, it's quite sensitive. So if you were to put a mobile phone on there, which I often use as a benchmark, and you're essentially asking the body, is this something that is congruent with you? Do you like it? Do you understand it? Or is there a problem for you? And obviously the radiation is going to cause the brainstem to focus more on the radiation, then communicate with the anterior deltoids, and we apply pressure on the wrist, there's a lack of strength. And essentially this is an amazing tool to then look at, okay, is there different foods you're intolerant to? You don't always know. You think you're eating something really healthy, but your body can say otherwise. There's a hidden food intolerance list that many people are unaware of, that they are eating on a daily basis. That's just draining them of energy. The second thing I love doing is using something called neurological integration system. So similarly with the food intolerance testing, we use the same muscle testing, and now we're checking in with the hormones, the neurotransmitters, if there's any fungus parasites in the body, because everything is energy. And once you understand the principles of energy and how the body can react to energy, you can tap into people's energetic fields and ask and get so much information from it. It's amazing.
That is such a good answer, buddy. Everything is energy, and there are parasites, fungicides, herbicides, whatever else, pesticides that are affecting our body negatively. And I remember one story is a little bit disgusting, but I'll bring it up quickly. I was when I first wanted to do my first original fast and starting my journey with plant medicine, I traveled to Peru. And I fasted for 10 days. Well, I was clean eating for 2 weeks. And then I got to Tarapoto in Peru. And, we sat for many, many days without any food. Now, the way we did this is we did enemas and many other things that, I learned as a nutritionist. And we went through this process of doing the enemas and particularly cleansing the bowels. Now, I knew that I was supposed to be able to do the enema in this particular way for 15 minutes. But for some reason, every time I got to 5-6 minutes, I started having these intense stomach cramps. Now, bear in mind, I'm a very healthy person. I've taken care of myself the majority of my life really well, but I've had alcohol and I've eaten meat and stuff like that in the past as well. So you just don't know where and how the parasites come in. I've traveled through Asia. You just don't know, right? So what happened? Day 1, 2, 3, 4, couldn't get past 5 minutes with this specific detox technique. And my detox mentor at the time was just saying, hey, there must be a parasite in there. Something must be going on, because you should be able to do this for at least 15 minutes. So when I got to day 5, I think it was, with 2 enemas per day, it was just, I just decided, no, there must be something wrong. I'm going to just hold and not give up and let whatever is in there pass. Because intuitively, I knew that there must have been a parasite or something. And I got to that day and I just held it. And suddenly just excruciating pain in my bowels and stomach area. And I was holding. And suddenly just like something just gave. I felt something just let go. And suddenly it was just bliss and no pain. And I went straight to that 15 minutes during that enema. And here's the disgusting part. Prior to that, when you do an enema, you put, water or coffee or other things, we use something else into the rectum to heal part of the bowels and many other ways. I mean, you've got awesome solutions on this as well, but this is the way we did it. And I just remembered now, when that thing, whatever it was, let go, like I felt a huge release, goosebumps all over my body. And I jumped onto the toilet, and what has been coming out the first 4 days was just water. And I can tell you what came out after that one was certainly not water. It looked like, and this is disgusting, but very useful if you're interested in your health, because you just don't know what's living in your guts and in your bowels, right? What came out looked like a jellyfish with a whole bunch of hair through it. So you can imagine, like, disgusting. And when I took a picture of it and did the research and looked into it, it was what I referred to as a candida mother. So basically I had a candida albicans, a yeast infection in my bowels for I don't know how many years. And when I cleansed and followed the, nutritional, naturopathic and detoxifying principles, I was finally able to let it go. Day 5, 6, and 7, 2 enemas a day, no problem. Now guess what happened? My skin cleared up. My sugar cravings that I had had for years completely disappeared. Why? Because I had a whole bunch of parasites, a fungus, a candida, yeast effectively, living in my intestinal system, signaling my nervous system to go and eat sugar so the parasites could get nutrition. I would imagine that you've seen similar cases in clinic, Nathan?
Candida is such a complex structure that it can totally change the mood and behavior of someone. So when when they're trying to be good and not eat the sugar, it's like, I'm hungry and I'm going to make you get up and go feed me so strongly that unless the person has a very high will or is in a high vibrational state, they're going to give in, unfortunately. So yes, it's a very difficult thing. And people are unaware of exactly what candida is, and usually they're full of it.
Exactly, right? Because we're too acidic, to having too much processed sugar, etc. Now, one of the things that I'm doing with you at the moment now, this may not be for everyone, but what I do is regularly, every 6 months, I go to Nathan or the clinical team accordingly, and I get all of my bloods, all of my tests done, right? And kinesiology, as you mentioned before, many of you have heard my, my preach on the Dr. Hawkins scale, the Hawkins scale of consciousness, as to the different frequencies of certain emotions. Now, that was based on kinesiology. So to use kinesiology to get answers from the unconscious mind is such a powerful way, but I know there's many other tests as well that you use in your clinic. When I get the results of these tests, I'm not guessing. I know from a scale, hypothetically from 1 to 10, if my zinc's at 2, well, I could triple the amount of zinc and still be within a normal range, but now I'd be high. And I just remember one patient of mine in the clinics that we used to have, he was struggling with low libido and impotency. And this gentleman had been to pretty much every GP you could imagine for years and years, right? They put him on steroids, testosterone cream. They put him on everything. He just didn't work. He was on his last legs with this relationship for many other reasons, of course, as well. But he came to me and he was just distraught. He was heartbroken, because you could imagine how important it is for a man to be able to be a man and perform. And so I said, great, well, show me a copy of your recent bloods, of your bloods and your tests that you've done. And so he came in the clinic and he had this one piece of paper, and that the GP had done 2 tests, free testosterone and normal testosterone. And I'm like, can you show me the rest of the tests? And I contacted the GP, and the GP hadn't done any. Now, I'm not saying that the GP, because you work with amazing GPs, doesn't have anything to do with what you are. It's just the sick care and this healthcare. I said to him, geez, mate, we're gonna have to get some proper tests done. You've tested 1 or 2 things. There's a whole range of things, including, psychological, as you mentioned, emotional, that you mentioned, parasitic, energy medicine, as well as you mentioned, that are the reasons for this. So anyway, so I sent him off to another GP, got a broad spectrum test, came back. His zinc was basically nothing. Okay, his vitamin D was so low as a precursor to many other chronic diseases, as you know. So I said to the man, you got no zinc. You need zinc to produce testosterone. So put him on a zinc supplement, got a little bit better, not too much, changed the zinc supplement to something that's more, bioavailable, and his zinc went through the roof. And slowly, through yoga, through meditation, through some, nutritional stuff that we did, mindset stuff, he started to get his natural testosterone production back. Less lethargic, more energetic, more happy, able to perform. And, the story has a happy ending. But where do you see that what you do as an expert in holistic therapies and holistic medicine is not you can't even call it a compliment. It's kind of like you're filling the gap of where modern science is kind of missing something really, really important. Can you tell us your opinion on how you measure things and why it's important to do so?
So there's always a range within a range that we say. The moment someone brings in some pathology requests and results, and we see that, oh, okay, you've been told everything's all good, you're okay. My first thing is, I don't want you to be okay. I want you to be optimized and amazing. Okay is not good enough. Okay is just a certain amount of time before you're not okay. And so when we're looking at the results, vitamin D, for example, everyone's happy for it to sit around 50. It should be more like 100 to 120 millimole. And zinc, it should be more like 15 to 20, and people are happy if it's 9. They don't even think of the fact that, oh, maybe they have high copper, and the copper is an antagonist to the zinc. So as a naturopath, we're using tests not just singly, because the body is not a single organism, it's a multi-organism, multi-energetic, connected on all sorts of levels. And the one thing is just not good enough. You need to be treating multiple areas. So I say, I guess when you test, that's a benchmark. We're not even going to focus on negative results, because what we want to focus on is what we want to create. And that's what we're going to think about. And so I get people often to just leave the results with me. I'll explain them to you so you're happy and you understand what's going on. But I want you to focus on where you want to be. And I will help your body get there physically and biochemically. But first, mentally, you need to be there. And the testing is just a way of keeping us on track, whether that be pathology testing, heavy metal testing, microbiome gut analogy testing, analysis testing, live blood analysis, impedance testing, so using frequencies and energetic medicine to detect more subtle changes in the epigenetic function of the body. And I mean, the list goes on. Luckily at the clinic I'm at, we have so many amazing tools, from 3D body scans to looking at fungus and virus and parasites using Russian technology. So yeah, we're pretty thorough and comprehensive. But again, don't just focus on the results, focus on where you want to be and create a holistic approach of gut, liver, bowels, sleep, and mental health to get there.
Love that. Love that, buddy. And now, so energy medicine, right? So what I specialize in is understanding energy, because everything is energy, like you mentioned before. And there's a link between energy medicine and consciousness. What's your take on that?
So the Buddhists believe that there's these things called consciousness sparks. It's what formed consciousness to begin with. That somewhere way back when some large matter of consciousness gained consciousness and started to try and figure out what it was, and it virtually created us where it's sort of feel as living through life, getting life experience and giving it back to source. But when you look at energy, it's not, people often look at the universe as like one direction. There's something big and it goes all the way down to small, like zero, and then it stops. It goes so much beyond that. Like even looking at an atom and what's made up of an atom, like the nucleus, what's in the nucleus, protons and neutrons. Okay, that's it. But that's not it. It goes down into planks and even into subplanks. So to give you a visual just of like how big the scale is, proton's pretty small, right? I mean, you need an electron microscope to even see things this small. And we still don't even know exactly, it's more of a theory. But if you were to take a plank and then amplify it enough times that it became the size of a proton, then the proton would have to expand to the size of 43 trillion kilometers long as a scale. And if you were to somehow get all of these planks and fit them in a little 1 square cubic, 1 square little area, it would be 10 to the 93 when it comes to the mass. Now, if you were to take all of the stars and universes and put them into one area, the same size, the mass of that would be 10 to the 41. So now you have 10 with 50 zeros of difference between a plank and a proton. And what is on the outside of something in matter, you've actually got the same thing inside. So begin in your seminar, what I love is you sort of touch on this a little bit. If you take a skin cell and you keep zooming in, eventually you're going to get to this plank. And the more you go into the subplanks, the more energy there is. And this is where energy medicine starts to come from. These subplanks is what the Buddhist was referring to as the spark of consciousness. And that's even the subplank to a plank, that in itself is dramatic, the difference in size. And so how this links back to consciousness, because we are all energy, we are physically 0.00001 matter and the rest energy. Our consciousness actually forms through something called hara, an assemblage point, which I'll touch on later and go into more detail. But essentially, as a child is born, we have these things called chakras, and they're anchored by an assemblage point. And this assemblage point starts in the navel and slowly works its way up to the armpit and breast line where it centers itself. But as that's happening, a child is born with zero ego. It has no differentiation between itself, its thoughts, the things around it. It relies upon the mother to basically gather this information from. And because the mother has a subject conscious objective, meaning she's got her life experience and her take on things, the baby uses this and forms an ego. And the ego is basically what is throughout our life, we're relying upon to give us information. And so when it comes to energy medicine and consciousness, our subconsciousnesses are all actually linked. It's called superconsciousness. And when you start to tap into this, you can start to actually, once you become aware of it, manipulate the matter and use it in terms of energy medicine. Qigong is an example of using energy medicine. And again, I'll go into it when we speak about more of the hara and assemblage point in terms of how this directly links to consciousness. But yeah, if you want to look into energy and consciousness, start looking at consciousness sparks, planks, subplanks. It gets really interesting.
Awesome. And how does this then relate to someone's physical health or human experience in terms of hara energy points, the things you talked about?
Yeah, we are only as good as our assemblage point. Our assemblage point is, you talk about the torus field, energy flowing from the head down and then from the body down, and it meets at this assemblage point. So when this assemblage point of energy, which is not static, it's dynamic, it's always moving in this torus field, it folds in on itself. And when we have a centered assemblage point, we are able to have proper alignment, mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And that drives who we are. The moment that assemblage point becomes off-centered, then we lose that connection. You start to see people that are anxious, panicked, depressed, mood swings, they're all over the place. And, methylation can play part of it, but when it comes to energy, it's actually the assemblage point. And if the assemblage point is tying in all of the chakras, then the hara, where the navel is basically where our intention comes from. And when we're doing Qigong and gathering Qi, we're actually gathering it into a hara to then use as a framework to keep everything else in balance.
That's awesome. I was going to ask if the hara was the Dantian. I would imagine so.
Yeah, I think in your yogi terms, the what do you call it? The Atman consciousness or heightened awareness. This is the hara.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So this gives me a really good way to understand and how to share with our students and our followers what it is that energy medicine really is. To break it down, we're made up of 99.9% pure energy that is non-physical, so not the stuff that we can touch and feel. And that energy frequency and vibration, that is us, that is the quantum field, that is consciousness, that is, expression of source, whichever way you want to look at it, is expressed through a physical form. So if there's interference or incoherence or anything happening in the energy field, it can then, of course, express itself as disease or distortions within the physical body. Correct? Correct. And so then someone would, do the energy work, heal, as we take our students through, healing and collapsing their greatest fear, guilt, shame, grief, sadness, anger, lies, illusion, disconnection, and, getting them out of stress and into presence. And so then someone would come to you and do these tests, energetic tests, all the stuff that you do. And what I really love is that for someone that understands, metaphysical components, they'll be like, yep, geeking out on this conversation. Totally cool. Love it. I want to be at my peak potential. But others might be a little bit like, hang on, I've never done any of these tests. Right. And so I always used to say to my patients, and I learned this from a mentor when I was studying in America. He asked me a question, and this is such a useful question. And I'd like everyone that's listening and watching to ponder this, maybe even write it down. And the question he asked was, how do you know if you're healthy? All right. So I thought to myself, hang on, how do I know if I'm healthy? And I used to ask this to my patients all the time. And the answer that would commonly be served, and I'll ask you all to, answer the question, how do you know if you're healthy? Right. And the answer that would commonly come back was, I feel good. Right? So I feel good. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I'm kind of happy with my habits. And so I must be healthy. So the next question then is, does the absence of symptoms, not having physical pain, not having issues, not having a diagnosis, not feeling too bad, does the absence of symptoms mean that we are healthy? And therein lies the greatest hack you can really possibly imagine for beginners specifically. Does the absence of feeling bad or crap mean that you're well? The answer is, of course, no. Listen carefully. Leading cause of death, well, at least so far, cardiovascular disease in modern countries, right? Cardiovascular disease, cancer is right up there, number 2. You can have cardiovascular disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, all of the, or any of the above. Cardiovascular disease, you can have cancer at the same time as you have diabetes and still feel no symptoms. In fact, I think it's 4 out of 5 or maybe 5 out of 6 of the first heart attacks. The heart attack is the actual first symptom. Is that correct? Something like that?
Just the pain in the left chest, and then you've had a heart attack. You don't feel anything leading up to it. That's why they call it the silent killer.
Exactly, right? So we can have heart attack, so we can have a heart condition or cardiovascular condition, cancer and diabetes, all 3, and still feel fine. So then the question is, what does it mean to be healthy? If I can't fully feel it, particularly if you're toxic, if you're toxic, there's so many things going on. You think feeling like that is normal. So how do we know if we're healthy? Well, there's one thing and there's many different things, but the one place to start that I really emphasize to my patients is that good health is not just how you feel. Good health is how you function. Because if everything in your body is functioning at 100%, your liver's at 100%, your brain's at 100%, your heart's at 100%, your skin's at 100%, your energy is at 100%, well, then you can't be sick or unhealthy. And that's what I love about holistic medicine. That's what I love about naturopathy and the stuff that you do and things that we teach, because there's no guessing. When I come to you and I look at my bloods, I know. When I come to you and I do any kind of test, I know, and I have data. And then I can make choices from that data, from that information, and say, okay, so my zinc is low, my testosterone's there, my DHEA is out of balance, I'm low on this, I'm high on that, whatever. Or, as you mentioned, energetically, emotionally, mentally, stress-wise. And from that information, I can look at homeostasis as to where am I right now, chronological age versus biological age. And what do I need to do to get to the next level to be healthy? I just think this is so important, particularly with what's happening in the world right now. And so many things are changing. And we hear nothing on the news about this is the time to strengthen your immune system. This is the time to drink clean water and eat clean food and, exercise and, maybe reduce your calories. And this is the time to strengthen your immune system. That's what we should be hearing about. So people like you, it's a shame that not more people know about it. But here we are sharing this information. I want to ask you a question, bro. And that is, if you have, and I know that you do, this is a bit left field, but I reckon this will be good. If you had a message to share with the world, just imagine that you're on a world stage. There can be thousands, tens of thousands, can be hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever. There's a whole large group of people gathered, and you're on the stage. You've got everyone's attention, and you have a message to the world to share. Take as long as you need to feel into it. And then whenever you're ready, feel free to just share. What would that message to the world be right now?
That message really, yeah. I've thought about this and really, for me, Espen, I would say the things that you're visually seeing and feeling is a perception of the energy and information flowing through you. And so when someone does something that upsets you and really triggers you, you've got to think, what's the information energy coming into me? And maybe I should see it from their perspective. If everyone just stopped and thought, right now my ego is kicking in and it's all about me, my self-opinion, my self-awareness, my self-involvement, me. What about just us? What if we were all energetic beings and all the information was coming in and we were all having an abundance of love instead? How would that shift our perceptions of the physical stuff going on in front of our eyes? And if instead we focused on that energy and that information, that would start to be the new creation of what we're actually attracting. So yeah, focus on what you want, operate from the center of love, lift up that vibrational frequency, and that's what you'll start attracting.
Wow, love it. Took it straight to the law of oneness, the number one law of the 12. I mean, as you do. Good on you, bro. A quick question, pivoting a little bit more. We look at energy medicine and we look at holistic medicine or including supplements. Patients used to ask me, right, do I need to take supplements? And my answer was, and correct me if I'm wrong, my answer was, in an ideal world, no. If you're living in nature and everything is pure and the water is pure and you're eating the plants and you're doing all the right things, no. But my friend, you're not living in an ideal scenario. The water is toxic and you can drink it, but it's probably not the best unless it's clean water. You're not eating food, you're eating food-like products. You're not in an ideal environment. There's electromagnetic frequencies, there's toxins. Like I ran through the forest this morning and I ran past two beautiful young people and it was like, hi, they're smiling. And their perfume and cologne was just bang. I was like, have you got any idea the amount of heavy metals that's in that perfume? You're rubbing it under your armpit. Like, it's just, there's so much that we don't know. So do we need supplements? Ideal world? No. Are we living in an ideal world? No. Do we need supplements? Yeah, if you want to be healthy. So tell us, how does energy, medicine, and supplements in your eyes relate to that conversation? And how is it relevant to the people watching?
Here's something that probably people really don't consider. If the energy you're feeling can be felt by other people, like you're in an elevator and you're in a room full of people that have just found out, they've been cheated on, they've lost a loved one, and they're in that fear and regret and that lower vibration, you're going to feel it. And so what happens when those same people are actually coming into contact with the foods that you're eating or the supplements being made? because everything is energy that we've been speaking of, and especially plants contain crystalline structures, and same with herbs, same with us, and crystals contain energy. And so now all of a sudden, you're taking something, whether it's a supplement or just a food-based supplement, and it can actually contain the energy of the chain of people that have been around touching it, even contaminated with EMF. So what I needed to do for myself and my family is I just started developing a range of products that were not only organic, but the information that I've learned over the years, especially from Dr. Price, I was able to use energetic medicine to cleanse the energy, lift up the frequency of those ingredients, and basically put intention into those ingredients and almost vibrational frequencies that the plants held, that when we consume them, all of a sudden, it's not just a physiological or biological effect of that plant in our cells. The information coming in, the vibrational frequency, is turning our cells on in a complete different way. So you can take a product that was designed for something very specific and layer a whole bunch of different frequencies, from the chakra frequencies, love frequencies. Usually a frequency is about 7 digits long in a number sense. And so you can imprint pretty much anything you can really think of, as long as it's congruent. You can't put anything negative. And so that's my take on energy medicine and supplements. You can take it to a whole next level.
Okay, so now I'm just sitting there smiling, because I was like, you took energy medicine, you took supplements, and you made it one. So you can actually take superfoods and actually imbue it, embed it with energetic medicine, and improve the benefit of that person by them having 2-in-1 kind of thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially that's what homeopathics are, right? They've just got the frequency in such a small dilution that basically the physical remnants is no longer there. It's a memory. It's a frequency left in the solution, and you can take that and have profound effects. So you can take that same principle and take a substance and imprint the frequency of it into another substance with a crystalline structure, and it will remember that and hold on to it.
And we know that works well. We've seen that through Dr. Emoto's work out of Japan, how he changed the molecular structure of water. We've seen it through plants and animals, and just the same. In quantum entanglement, we see it. In the observer effect, we see it. And as we know, if we observe someone with a negative thought and emotion, that person will have structurally a negative change in their energy field. So why couldn't we do it with plants and superfood? Why couldn't we do it with medicine? That just makes a lot of sense. Okay, bro. I think it's time for those who are jumping, at the bits, going, whoa, like, I'm interested. Like, where do I learn more? Because as I said, I've been doing this now for 20 years, regular tests every 6 months. When I'm a peak performance athlete, I do it every 3 months. Seeing you guys for intravenous injections for, vitamins and all this sort of stuff. So for those who are interested, Nathan, where do people find out more about you, or energy medicine, or naturopathic medicine, or just to get in contact?
So Beyond Good Health Clinics, if you type that into Google, it will bring us up. And we're now in Southport, brand new clinic, Beyond Good Health Clinics. And that's primarily what you've just described we focus on, whether it be holistic medicine using energy devices like PEMF, intravenous, laser, infrared, hypothermia. We have such amazing tools. But again, even if you're not able to be in person, we do Zoom consultations, so we can totally do it. There is no time and space. It's boundless. The moment that you send a thought or a frequency to someone, it arrives instantaneously. And so things these days can be done online as well. So yeah, Beyond Good Health Clinics, and just touching back to the whole the assemblage point, developing and creating subconscious beliefs. That's why I also do a lot of work in parenting. And so parenting is such an important integral part of a health journey, because if you can start at a child's perspective, not forming an ego that's going to be destructive, but loving instead, and put a lot of nurturing work into that, then you basically transform that person's life and the family. And so I love doing parenting work. So my mother and I actually do that. That's probably a story for another time. But yeah, I'll pop the link in and let people know where they can get access to that as well. Yeah.
Sounds awesome, brother. And I'll end with this this quote. I can't remember exactly how it goes. Maybe you do actually. It was something like, if the doctors of the future do not prescribe nutritional medicine, then there's something like, well, then the future of doctors will only be nutritionists. It was something like that. I can't remember, but it was so clear that it was, you have to understand first principle in medicine, first, do no harm. I believe that we are doing harm, or certain people are doing harm, if you don't involve lifestyle medicine, if you don't talk about feelings and thoughts and lifestyle and toxicity and energy medicine and supplements and actually test these things. And so to have someone like you actually filling the gap and allowing us, if we feel like it's aligned with our values, to have an appointment with you or to at least research what this is, you're filling in the gap and you're allowing us to be able to be at our best. So I want to really thank you for your time, brother. It's really special that you've taken the time, and thank you once again for teaching us one other incredibly powerful tool, how to be at our best.
Was that a question?
No, I'm just saying how amazing you are, and thank you so much for being amazing.
Thank you very
look
much.
Up,
I appreciate it.
Pleasure. And look up Beyond Good Health and Nathan the Naturopath if you guys have any more questions. Any final words? Anything you want to share, buddy?
No, you've been amazing, Espen. I just love sharing knowledge and really trying to uplift people's perspective on how to be more conscious, more present, because ultimately that will bring more energy into their life. And if that's what they're focusing on, they'll attract more of it. And all of a sudden, they'll be at a higher level of consciousness. And with that, bring some amazing feelings and bliss that's really transformational. It gives you true purpose, and you wake up happy each and every morning.
Bang. And so it is. Thank you so much, Nathan. Looking forward to seeing you in clinic again soon for myself as well.
Thanks, Dr. Espen.